Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse. I am the president of Meditation Club and one of the former mindfulness interns. The Baccalaureate ceremony is a long-standing tradition where we take a moment to reflect on the spiritual significance of this weekend, as well as the transition into autonomous adulthood that graduation represents. There's a lot going on this weekend for us graduates. One event is followed by another, a family member arrives and starts asking us a bunch of questions, countless dad jokes. Meanwhile, at least in my mind, I'm occupied with logistics after graduation, saying goodbye to this place, bidding farewell to the family I've built here, generally moving on. In the midst of all this action and activity, it's extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive to appreciate these last moments that the class of 2024 has together. This ceremony is an opportunity for us to pause and take it all in. In the 14th chapter of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, "Look and it can't be seen. Listen and it can't be heard. Reach and it can't be grasped. Above it isn't bright, below it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable, it returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms, image without an image, subtle, beyond all conception. Approach it and there is no beginning. Follow it and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it at ease in your life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom." He continues, "Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment, not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things." Today we're going to watch and listen to the class of 2024's religious leaders as they come up here and share some words from their perspective and tradition. First, to prepare us, I'd like to ask you all to join me in a short centering meditation. You can start by putting both your feet flat on the ground and resting your hands on your lap. If it feels comfortable, you can gently close your eyes. Feel the solidity of the ground beneath your feet and the solidity of the chair that you're sitting in. Let yourself relax and sink into that support. Notice your breath. The coolness of the air as you inhale, the warmth as you exhale. Feel your body responding to your breath, your belly as it expands and retracts. Feel your shoulders rise as you inhale and fall as you exhale. If you notice that your mind has started to wander away, just acknowledge it. Let that thought pass and bring yourself back to your breath. Become aware of the sounds in this room. Notice the sounds around you. There's no need to identify their source. Just notice them. Be curious about them. Feel your hands resting on your lap. Feel their gentle weight. Can you feel the ebb and flow of your breath on your hands as they rest on your lap? Notice how your whole body fills and empties with every breath. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. We are all here together right now. We are in this moment together. And if you ask me, that's a pretty beautiful thing. Next up, we have Trevor, the interim chaplain this year. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I did that twice because it represents the spirit for today. We're called together in the spirit of celebration to reflect not only on what has happened, but what will happen in our lives. See, a Baccalaureate is a unique gathering where we honor the spirit of this. We honor particular spiritual traditions, interfaith traditions, and traditions of humanist thought. We honor the spirit that's beyond us, the spirit that is in us, but we also take a moment to honor the spirit of those that have gone before us, that we stand on today, whose prayers and sacrifices got us here. So we celebrate today. In the midst of tumultuous times, we're aware of challenging circumstances, but this moment is important. So we're called here to celebrate the fact, the undisputable, unchangeable, unquestionable fact that graduates, you're here. And I know there were so many moments when you weren't quite sure if you're going to get here, but you're here. So let that sink in a minute. Look around, look at the people around you, and remember the beautiful moments. Remember the lessons from the mistakes that you made. Remember those moments you felt like giving up. Remember those moments of overwhelming joy and laughter. Remember the nights that you will not ever tell your parents about. Remember the tears that you cried that nobody knew you were crying. And those dreams that you've had since you were a child made manifest in the moment today. You're here. So don't let anything rob you of this moment, right? We want you to make noise if you want to, have moments of reflection if you want to. We have a spirit of celebration. And if you find yourself getting distracted, listening to someone else's experience, worrying about what was, lamenting over what lies ahead, agonizing over answers to unanswerable, unresolvable questions, stop. Look around and notice that you have your black robes on, which means you're here. So let the spirit of celebration rise in you. Let joy come, because this is a reason to celebrate and celebrate well. So do me a favor. I come out of a preaching tradition where there's a little call and response. So do me a favor. Put your hand on your chest. Feel the beating of your heart. Remember who you once were 4 years ago. Think about what you've become now. And with gratitude and joy, as loud or as quiet as you need, simply say, I am here. Say it with me. I am here. And that's reason to celebrate.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, meaning peace be upon you all. My name is Piu Piu Wen, and I am a member of the Muslim Student Association at Hamilton. I am honored to stand before you today on this momentous occasion. Graduation are not only a time to celebrate our academic achievement, but also a time to reflect on the journey that brought us here and the communities that supported us along the way. Every Friday, both Muslims and non-Muslims gather on the third floor of the chapel to eat a meal together, nurturing a sense of community within us. Though our community may be small, our presence together is a testament to the resilience and solidarity we share. This resilience is not just confined to our campus, but is evident in students all across the world as we gather here right now. As we observe the campus protests that are happening, we see students using their voices and education to protest against imperialism, colonialism, and apartheid, especially in light of the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. Despite facing challenges head-on, we've maintained our principles and integrity. Resilience is a quality that we all need, especially in today's world. It is the ability to withstand difficulties, to recover quickly from setbacks, and to keep going despite the obstacles in our path. As students, we have all faced challenges during our academic journey, whether it was a difficult exam, a demanding project, or personal struggles. We have learned to persevere and push through. Today, I'll be reciting a couple of verses from Surah Al-Barakah, which talks about resilience in the face of trials and tribulation. This involves maintaining a calm demeanor, controlling one's emotion, and persevering with trust in Allah's wisdom and plan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله وباليوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنين. With this, I bring my words to a close. The surah I just read gently also reminds us to strive for righteousness, justice, and ethical conduct in all that we do as we part ways after Hamilton College. As we part ways today, I extend my heartfelt gratitude and warmest congratulations to the remarkable class of 2024.
Salam to the seniors of the class of 2024, faculty, family, and friends. My name is Naima Akhtar, and I was the treasurer for the Muslim Student Association. Starting college amidst a global pandemic was difficult, and finding a Muslim community here was even more difficult in the very beginning. One of the primary reasons behind this is because the Muslim student population of Hamilton is very small. In our graduating class, I only know a handful of Muslims, 2 of them being Pew and I. Despite being so small in number, I have never seen such resiliency, passion, and drive in a group of people, and I'm proud to be standing here today commemorating them. We do not have a house that is officially ours, did not have many accommodations set for us during Ramadan and eating before sunrise and at sunset, could not eat the meat present on campus for a while, nor did we have many systems put in place that would allow us to conduct our 5 daily prayers on time. Despite it all, we made the most of the 3rd floor of the chapel that we called our own on Friday evenings, when we had bi-weekly dinners with all of you, talking about our days, frustrations, accomplishments, and worries. We took pride and joy in holding our small sehris, which is the time we eat prior to fasting in the common rooms of our dorms at 3 in the morning as we prepared ourselves for the day of fasting that lay ahead. We relished in our quiet chats on the walk to the Science Center or club meetings about the attires we would wear for Eid and how we would order food from a bajillion places to make up for missing our family's home-cooked meals for iftar, which is when we would break our fast. At the end of my college career, things started to take a turn for the better. This, I believe, is because of Reverend Trevor and the chaplaincy, who ensured that our campus-wide events would be a place where Islam is celebrated, and that during the month of Ramadan, we would have a sense of community and the chance to engage in the spiritual acts of worship we wanted to during this holy time by accommodating with our professors, ensuring we had food for us during Sahari and Iftar, and even arranging transport to the local mosque and calling Ubers for us when there were too few of us able to go by Hamilton transportation. My favorite memories by far at Hamilton were the last 2 weeks of Iftar dinners this year. For the first time, I had the honor of sitting, joking, and bonding with my fellow Muslims, Reverend Trevor, and other wonderful students on campus, fasting with us, talking about our dreams and passions, favorite shows and movies, opinions, and educating one another on our differing cultures, backgrounds, and life experiences as we worked on our homework, assignments, and exams till 1 or 2 in the morning, while also making delicious chocolate-covered dates. Hearing about their stories of what it was like to be Muslim on this campus, how they too had a hard time shuttling back and forth from their dorms to pray, finding facilities where they could properly do their wudu, how they wish they had accommodations set for them to travel home and celebrate with their families, dorms that would allow them to wear their hijab without the chance of someone seeing them without it, and a plethora of other circumstances and situations were familiar. I listened to their struggles with being met with Islamophobic rhetoric for standing up for what they believed in, or fear of being met with this type of rhetoric for publicly displaying their religion. With this, we had difficult conversations that were often met with silence outside of our shared space. We spoke about the ongoing genocide in Palestine and the resiliency shown by other Muslims and students at universities that had encampments and stood fervently beside what they believed in despite being met with violence and brutality. One thing I noticed among us as a group was how our confidence and resiliency grew as we talked with one another. It inspired me when I saw my younger Muslim peers asking for accommodations and having the strength and power to ask for what should be theirs, for things I did not have the courage to ask for during my time at Hamilton. I was asked today to talk about how practicing Islam at Hamilton showed and taught me resiliency, and I realized that it is precisely through my struggles, my shared struggles with my fellow Muslim community supporting professors and faculty, and our fellow Hamiltonians and Reverend Trevor, who taught me what resiliency is and gave me the strength to be it. While circumstances were hard on campus, we Muslims at Hamilton made the most of what we had and built a beautiful place, armored with love, strength, memories, and solidarity, a feat that is difficult to carry out. This experience taught me how strong we are together as one community, or ummah, as we say in Arabic. As we say goodbye to the last 4 years we have spent at Hamilton, I hope you, the graduating class of 2024, always practice resiliency. Find it in the communities you take part in all your future endeavors, and continue to be as strong as you have been thus far. It has been an honor to be part of this class, have the support, and to be here at Hamilton. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel O'Brien, and I'm one of the co-presidents of Hillel here at Hamilton. Every week, the Jewish community observes Shabbat. Together, we say prayers and sing. These songs connect us to the broader Jewish community everywhere as they are sung at Shabbats around the world. I chose a few selections of songs to read today from the Shabbat Minha, a service that happens on Saturday afternoons. Hine ma tov u'ma-na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for friends to dwell together in unity. Al sholasha divarim ha'olam omed, al haTorah va'al havodah va'al gimilut hasadim. The world stands on three things: on Torah, on worship, and on good deeds. Lo aleka hamam melaka ligamor, velo ata ven horin livatel mi menha. It is not incumbent upon you to finish the task, but neither are you free to desist from it.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Rockford, and I am one of the Hillel co-presidents alongside Rachel. Shabbat has been a consistent part of the Jewish community here for years, and I'll never forget my first Shabbat on campus. We sat socially distant in the blue Adirondack chairs under a tent next to the chapel in the midst of a pandemic. Yet, little did I know that this Shabbat and the dozens after were where I would meet some of my closest friends at Hamilton, including Rachel. College is the first time where students get to choose if and how much they want to practice their religious traditions, and having had such a welcoming space for students to engage with and learn about Judaism is something I will cherish forever. As in many faith traditions, food is a central part of Judaism, so it's to no surprise that students look forward to our weekly Thursday night challah bakes and Friday night Shabbat dinners, where of course we have over 5 types of grape juice. Students frequently hang out and chat until 10 or 11 p.m., baking, schmoozing, and just enjoying one another's company. This sense of community around food and Shabbat has contributed to such varied Shabbat experiences, which have included interfaith gatherings with the Muslim Student Association and the Newman Council. I actually grew up in an interfaith household with a Catholic mom and a Jewish dad, so interfaith dialogue and community has always been a huge part of my life. The person on campus who provided the most guidance and inspired me to build up the interfaith community on campus by starting an interfaith special interest housing community and making time for interfaith dialogue via the All Beliefs Union and interreligious roundtable discussions was Reverend Jeff McGarn. Jeff's organization of the, yes. Jeff's organization of the chaplaincy community allowed the members of various spiritual backgrounds and faith traditions to branch out and learn from one another, to which I am forever grateful, and the chaplaincy hasn't been the same without him. Jen and Michael Furman, our Jewish chaplains, have also worked hard these past 2 years to instill a sense of community into Jewish life at Hamilton. They've expanded the Jewish community in so many ways as they engage with students, staff, and faculty, and with the current climate of anti-Semitism on college campuses across the country, they've helped us provide a place of strength, comfort, and stability for Jewish individuals on campus. Thank you, Jen and Michael, for everything you've done for our community. No, no matter if we were socially distant under a tent or in the Dwight Lounge, at the Center for Jewish Life, visiting our friends at the Colgate Jewish Union, or even joining President Whitman at his home, we always had a fun time singing, praying, and eating together, because that's what Shabbat is all about. It's about the sense of community and the people around you, no matter where you are in the world. The first prayer that Rachel recited, Hine ma tov, is one we sing frequently on Friday nights, and demonstrates this importance of having friends to come together with in unity. As seniors who are saying goodbye to our past 4 years here in Clinton, New York, Rachel and I know that no matter where we end up, there will always be a place for us around the Shabbat dinner table when we come back as alumni. We are forever grateful to have been able to call the Azel Backus House, the Center for Jewish Life, our home away from home on campus. Toda Rabbah, thank you, and Mazel Tov to all of our fellow seniors.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Taylor, and I'm one of the senior leaders of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes here at Hamilton. This next reading comes from chapter 13, verses 4 through 8 of Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away.
Good afternoon, and congratulations to my fellow graduating seniors. Thank you to our family, friends, faculty, and staff for joining us for this moment of intentional reflection amidst a very chaotic and busy weekend. My name is Caroline Ullum, aka Kaz, and I'm a student leader in Hamilton's Protestant chaplaincy. I've been involved with the religious and spiritual life at Hamilton throughout my 4 years here, but this year I stepped into new leadership roles as the Protestant chaplaincy intern, leader of Soul Food, and co-president of Fellowship of Christian Athletes with Nick and Grace. This year, my involvement in the chaplaincy became a formative part of my development as a leader and faithful person, through both immense challenge and inspiring growth. I'm a naturally optimistic and future-oriented person, so it feels very unnatural and pessimistic for me to reflect on my truth. This year has been a challenging year as a spiritual leader and Christian. Last August, I arrived on campus and quickly discovered that I would be taking on more leadership than initially expected. Jeff McCarn, the beloved longtime spiritual fixture of the chaplaincy, no longer led the department, and no new chaplain had been instated. There was no full-time chaplain and no Protestant spiritual leader at Hamilton. I entered my new roles feeling angry and frustrated and fraudulent. How was I expected to be a spiritual leader for others when I had no spiritual guidance of my own? Even more nerve-wrackingly, who was I to lead a religious organization while still figuring out what I believed? Ever the optimist, I reframed the situation as an opportunity for grassroots, student-led chaplaincy development. I grieved my expectations for the year and felt angry, but I also connected with other student faith leaders. I felt like an imposter sometimes, leading a Christian group when I was uncertain about my own beliefs, so I explored my spiritual uncertainty by writing weekly homilies for our soul food gatherings, and the group became a place for thoughtful discussion and prayer across a variety of beliefs and backgrounds. Amidst loneliness and burnout as a leader, the other student faith leaders and I leaned on each other, and the Hamilton Christian community is now more interconnected than ever. Because of my frustration at my lack of spiritual mentorship, I reached out to local Protestant churches and kindled meaningful relationships between Hamilton chaplaincies and local church communities. The reality is, I did my best. On my not-so-good days, that meant drying my tears, saying a quick prayer, and powering through soul food so I could get back to my procrastinated schoolwork. On my good days, I was an energetic spiritual leader who facilitated thoughtful conversation and valuable fellowship. I don't have a glamorous success story of relentless Christian faith and uninhibited growth. I continue to question what I believe, feel burned out, and really struggle with the uncertainty of transition. But I've also become more grounded, curious, and connected with my community. Times of change and adversity hold vulnerable, messy, and beautiful truths, which we've all experienced in our own ways throughout our college experiences, and will again tomorrow at noon. Transitions are frustratingly uncertain, but they also offer opportunity for new connection to ourselves, others, and God. Faith and doubt are not mutually exclusive. Loneliness coexists with community. Growth happens even when we feel like we're falling short. Adversity and times of transition create space that feels lonely, exhausting, and scary. But that space can also be filled by new friendships, unexpected support, God's relentless love, and the patience and grace we should give ourselves. As we approach another big transition, I pray that we give ourselves patience, grace, and love. I hope that we allow ourselves to acknowledge that growth isn't linear, and new space feels simultaneously scary and exciting, and that's okay. I pray that we have faith that our lives will be filled by vibrant adventure, wide smiles with friends, thoughtful prayer and reflection, and change in unexpected ways. Most of all, I pray that we leave here with love and acceptance, not only for others, but for ourselves, because even if our stories are messy, they are worthy of immense pride, gratitude, and love. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the parents and families of our graduates, to our faculty and staff, to our neighbors and friends, and most of all, to the Hamilton College class of 2024. Today you are students. Today you are students. Tomorrow you will be alumni. You arrived on College Hill at the height of a global pandemic. You leave in the midst of escalating political divisions at home and conflict abroad. Your timing could have been better, but you have met every challenge thrown at you. And today is an opportunity to reflect on the path that brought you here and the path that will lead you into the future, the path that you yourselves will shape. Each year, we invite a distinguished speaker to share some of their own reflections with you. And this afternoon, we are fortunate to have join us a teacher, scholar, author, public servant, and human rights activist. I'm pleased also to call her a friend. Rosa Brooks and I worked together on a book with another colleague in 2006 that explored the difficulty of creating the rule of law following armed conflict. During the time we collaborated on this project, I came to know Rosa as an outstanding scholar, a terrific writer, and someone who can actually translate academic research into public policy. So I was not surprised to see her serve as counselor to the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, and later as senior advisor to the Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. Nor was I surprised when she spent 4 years writing weekly opinion columns for the Los Angeles Times, and another 4 years writing a column on war and the military for Foreign Policy. But I'll confess, I was a little surprised to learn, 15 years after our co-authored book, that Rosa, while teaching full-time at Georgetown Law School, also volunteered as a reserve police officer in the District of Columbia, patrolling in some of the city's most crime-ridden neighborhoods. Her objective was to better understand police violence and racial disparities in America's criminal justice system. I do believe very deeply, she has said, that if you want to change something, you have to understand it. We will have more to say when Rosa receives her honorary degree tomorrow. In the meantime, please join me in welcoming Hamilton's 2024 Baccalaureate speaker, Professor Rosa Brooks.
Class of 2024, family members, friends, and Hamilton College faculty and staff, it's a true honor to be here. I'm here with my own 2 daughters, by the way, my children, and when I asked if they wanted to come with me to Hamilton, they got really excited. This lasted right up to the minute they figured out that I wasn't offering to take them to the Broadway musical. So I've never actually delivered a baccalaureate address before, but like you are about to do, I did graduate from an expensive 4-year institution of higher education. So I knew just what to do, and I looked up baccalaureate address on Wikipedia. Wikipedia told me that in ancient times, a baccalaureate address could last as long as 4 hours. So I hope you're all sitting in extremely comfortable chairs. No, you're really feeling the solidity of those chairs, as Jesse said earlier, right? Okay, all right. So I did think that 4 hours seemed a little bit long, actually. So I switched from Wikipedia and I asked ChatGPT to give me a little bit of help drafting my remarks. ChatGPT told me that a baccalaureate address should be positive, uplifting, and should contain some good jokes to make people laugh and forget about those chairs. And in fact, ChatGPT suggested that I might open my remarks with the following lines, which it assured me were extremely humorous. As I stand here today, looking out at this sea of bright minds, I can't help but think, wow, all of you really went all out with the laundry this week, didn't you? This statement was apparently extremely funny if you're a semi-sentient piece of software. But I think you can probably see where this sad story is heading. I reluctantly came to the same painful conclusion that class of 2024, I'm sure many of you have come to at many equally agonizing moments in your academic career, which is I realized that artificial intelligence was not going to save me, and I was going to have to come up with something to say all by my puny little human self. And here is the really sad thing. I can't even do what ChatGPT wanted me to do and offer you something super positive and uplifting. The truth is you are graduating at a dark moment. And I'm not even going to talk about what a dark moment it is for the world at large, and it is a dark moment around the globe. But I do want to talk today about the dark moment we're in as a nation. The United States has rarely been so bitterly divided. Polls, for instance, now say that roughly 80% of Democrats and Republicans are convinced that the other party's agenda, if implemented, will destroy the country as we know it. And about 2/3 of Republicans and Democrats believe members of the other party are more dishonest and more immoral than members of their own party. Just last month, there was an Associated Press poll that found that only about 3 out of 10 Americans believe the nation's democracy is functioning well. Another poll found that 54% of Republicans and 35% of Democrats believe the United States is likely to experience a civil war in the next 5 years. You all know, of course, what happened at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Today, the presumptive presidential nominee for one of our 2 major political parties is a man who refused to agree to accept a peaceful transfer of power, refused to accept the results of the election of 2020, and egged on the violent mob that stormed the Capitol in order to try to prevent the certification of the vote. He currently faces multiple criminal charges, including several allegations relating to unlawful efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. And he's openly declared his intent, his desire and his intent, if he is reelected, to suppress independent media, defy court orders, launch an ideological purge of the civil service, seek revenge against his critics and rivals using the tools of the executive branch, deploy active duty military against lawful protest in American cities, and engage in the mass detention and expulsion of migrants in violation of both domestic and international law. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or something else entirely, it should be clear that these are the plans of an autocrat, not the plans of a democratic leader. And it's entirely possible that we will have an autocrat back in the White House 8 months from now. What does this mean for you? It means that there is a very significant possibility that American democracy, such as it is, may soon be a thing of the past, unless your generation figures out a way to hang on to it. And to be clear, our democracy has never been close to perfect. In so many ways, this nation was built upon injustice, piled upon injustice, and yet nonetheless, we have somehow, as a nation, we have somehow generally managed to lurch, however unevenly, in the direction of justice and equal rights. And for the most part, we have managed to do so not through violence, not through mass violence, but through the courts and the ballot box. And this might be about to change. To be honest, though, I'm not actually that worried that the United States is going to experience an actual civil war. I think it's a lot more likely that we could subside quietly into authoritarianism, not with a bang, but a whimper. And that's because history tells us, and all my work over the years in human rights, looking at nations that have slid into civil conflict, atrocity, authoritarianism, tells us that wishful thinking is widespread and courage is rare. So here's how it would happen here. Imagine an autocrat in the White House. The new president has invoked the Insurrection Act, which you should look up if you're not familiar with it, and sent the military into American cities to suppress the protests that occur when he takes office. Just this spring, we saw protests on college campuses around the country, and they died out pretty quickly when police made a few thousand arrests around the country. Imagine a year from now if the number of arrests was not in the thousands, but in the tens of thousands or the scores of thousands. Imagine maybe a few dozen or a few hundred protesters are killed. Maybe several protest organizations are designated as domestic terror groups. Imagine the president has invoked other emergency provisions, and there are many, many more unconstrained presidential emergency powers than most people realize. Imagine that he's used those powers to close down the websites of many major mainstream media outlets, like the fake New York Times, for instance. Imagine maybe 30,000 career civil servants have been fired and replaced by political loyalists. Imagine that broad executive branch surveillance powers are used to intercept the communications of rival politicians or civil society leaders. Or maybe at the direction of an autocrat in the White House, we have the IRS auditing the American Civil Liberties Union, the NAACP, dozens of other major nonprofits, including major universities and colleges. Imagine that president is directing investigations into possible criminal tax code violations by board members and senior staff at all of those organizations. Maybe a few judges or opposition leaders are killed by vigilante violence. Maybe a few people go to jail. Maybe the FBI is directed to launch criminal investigations into every political leader who criticized or opposed the new president. Maybe Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff are charged with treason, along with the former chair of the military's Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley. So imagine all those things happen in 2025. And do you think most Americans would rise up en masse and insist on drafting a new Declaration of Independence? I doubt it. I doubt it. Here's what I think would happen, unless we start organizing now to prevent this. I think almost all Americans would decide that the smart thing, the prudent thing, is to just keep their heads down. A chastened news media would subject the new administration to a lot less scrutiny. The millions of federal employees who still had their jobs would decide to just follow orders and not ask questions. Most of the thousands or millions of Americans who might have joined protests will decide to stay home. Critical nonprofit organizations will either go bankrupt, they'll lose their staff because no one can afford to be under investigation extensively forever and ever. Those that remain will be more compliant. Elected officials and judges will decide it's probably safer to be obsequious than to be critical. And just like that, unless we decide that we're going to figure out how to stand up against this, we will be living under an American version of Vladimir Putin's Russia. If you think that seems crazy and paranoid, you haven't been paying attention in the last few years. And I would urge you to read just one of the most recent examples. I would urge you to read the interview Time magazine published on April 30th, an extensive interview with Donald Trump, where all of the things I just laid out as authoritarian nightmare scenarios are things he quite cheerfully talks about doing if he regains the White House. But the greatest threat to American democracy is not, I suspect, civil violence. Frankly, I think the greatest threat is lack of imagination. Most of us simply can't imagine that things could really get that bad. It just seems impossible, no matter how many times we hear it, no matter how many times we're told, yes, that's what I plan to do. As the great political theorist Monty Python put it, nobody ever expects the Spanish Inquisition. Humans suffer from numerous cognitive biases, one of which is our tendency to assume that the future will always be very much like the present. And it usually is, until one day it isn't anymore. So whenever we hear people talk about the possibility that the US could slide into autocracy, we tend to think, well, surely not here. We think democracy has guardrails. There are things like courts, there are things like laws, and those guardrails of democracy will protect us. It's a phrase I hear a lot, the guardrails of democracy, and it's a phrase that suggests that we're all on some sort of big amusement park ride together. And sure, things might get a little scary, but whenever you approach a sharp turn or a steep drop, those guardrails are just going to kind of pop up to keep you from falling out. But this is not an amusement park. Those guardrails of democracy, we're the guardrails. You are the guardrails. There's no magic about democracy. There's no deus ex machina that's going to appear to deliver us from evil. If we want democracy in this country or anything close to it, we have to work to keep it. Since I'm a law professor, I'm going to quote Learned Hand, the American judge with the best name ever. In 1944, anybody remember what else was happening in 1944? Learned Hand gave a speech called The Spirit of Liberty, in which he said, "I often wonder whether we do not rest our hopes too much upon constitutions, upon laws, and upon courts. These are false hopes. Believe me, these are false hopes. Liberty lies in the hearts of men and women. When it dies there, no constitution, no law, no court can even do much to help it." Okay, so now you're persuaded, or at least I hope you're persuaded, that you need to do something to prevent the United States from slipping into autocracy. But even if I've persuaded you, you're probably also thinking, okay, but what exactly am I supposed to do about this? Well, first of all, vote, please, vote, please, please, please vote. If you're not a US citizen and you can't vote, drag your US citizen friends to the voter registration office, make them register, and then drag them to the voting booth and make them vote. Voting is a vital first step. It's obviously not the only step, though. You have to get other people to vote. You have to highlight injustice, propose solutions, find ways to persuade people that are effective. Sometimes you have to protest. Sometimes you've got to put yourselves out there to protect people and organizations and communities that have been threatened. You've got to donate your money. You've got to donate your ideas. You've got to donate your time. And on all of this, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that you actually have a lot of potential allies out there, because this country is full of good, decent, kind people who are absolutely exhausted by the partisan rancor. And for the most part, we collectively share a lot of common values related to democracy and the rule of law. 90% of US adults say the right to vote, the right to equal protection under the law, the right to privacy, and freedom of religion are very important, for instance. So that's the good news. There are actually a lot of people out there who do not want to see a slide into autocracy. The bad news is the second law of thermodynamics. Systems tend towards disorder. It's easier to knock things down than to build them up. And a corollary to that is that it takes a lot fewer people to destroy a society, and they can do it a lot faster than it takes to build something up or save something. Consider vicious terrorist groups like ISIS or the IRA. Such groups and other violent extremist groups around the world almost never had the support of more than a tiny, tiny fragment of the population. But since most people will be passive most of the time, even a very small group can do a tremendous amount of damage within a society if it's well organized, well funded, and very, very ruthless. Here's some more bad news. Recognizing that you yourself need to be the guardrails of democracy involves taking on some really difficult challenges. It requires speaking out when other people are silent. It requires standing up when other people are putting their heads down. Sometimes, yes, it involves putting yourselves at personal risk. This country has a proud history of nonviolent civil disobedience, and engaging in thoughtful, ethical acts of civil disobedience can sometimes be extraordinarily powerful. Think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., think of Gandhi. But even imagination and courage aren't enough. If you want to keep and sustain anything resembling a democracy in this country, if you want to mobilize effectively to prevent a slide into autocracy, your generation is going to have to relearn a skill that has largely atrophied in this country, and that is the lost art of political organizing. Organizing is what effective unions do, what effective dissenters and protesters all around the world do. And go back to the good news that I mentioned, that despite everything, this country is full of decent, kind people. Many of those people disagree with you. Many of them will believe things you don't believe. Many of them will vote for people who you think are terrible. But if you want to get them to change their minds, please don't make the mistake of imagining them to be lesser in some way. Don't make the mistake of dismissing them as, well, they're just deluded or racist or sexist or stupid or xenophobic or whatever it may be. We humans, all of us, are a fairly primitive animal, a fairly primitive and tribal species. Far more than we're generally comfortable admitting, all of us, even those of us with the benefit of lots of expensive higher education, we tend to form our beliefs and our opinions based not on evidence that we personally have evaluated, but as a result of what we've been told by those we trust, those in our tribe. And take a minute to ask yourself why you think you know the things that you think you know. Whatever you believe about climate change, whatever you believe about gender, about evolution, about Gaza, about what the best form of low-carb diet might be, whatever it might be, ask yourself, why do you believe, whatever beliefs you hold, how do you know the things you know? Can you personally prove that your beliefs are valid? I doubt it, because almost all of us, almost all the time, accept a kind of tacit epistemological division of labor. I'm not a scientist, for instance, but the people I trust, the people in my tribe, have told me to respect people called scientists. So although I can't personally demonstrate that climate change is caused by human activity, when scientists tell me that that's the case, I believe them. And this is just as true of many of our other beliefs about culture and morality. All of us sitting here today believe most of what we believe because people we trust told us it was true. And when we say, I believe this, often we're doing as much to signal which tribe we think of ourselves as belonging to as we are making a statement about our ability to personally prove anything in particular. So all those other people out there, the people who believe things that you or I might consider misguided or delusional or immoral, most of them believe the things that they believe for the same reasons that we believe the things that we believe. People they trust told them who else to trust, and the people who believe what we believe are outsiders to their networks of trust. They're, for the most part, no better or worse, smarter or dumber than any of us here. They just live within different epistemological communities. And that's why organizing, political organizing, is such hard work, because effective organizing involves getting to know people who have radically different beliefs and approaching them with respect and curiosity and empathy rather than with judgment or disdain. Effective organizing is always and always must be premised not on certainty but on humility, on the conviction that all of us are capable of both error and learning, and that if we can build trust with those of us, those who are different from us, only if we can build trust with those who seem very different from us, we can learn from one another, and sometimes we can motivate other people and ourselves to imagine different political and moral realities, and we can help each other find the courage to bring those into being. Organizing can be boring and tiring and slow. It is person by person, conversation by conversation. There is no magic app or meme that gets it all done. But it's the thing that makes the difference between one-time symbolic gestures, performative acts of virtue, and truly sustainable democratic movements, the kind that don't just make the news for a few days or weeks, but that change the course of history. So at this point, you might also be thinking, yeah, but, right, but what if I just want to take a vacation or get an interesting job that pays well, or what if I'm tired or scared or overwhelmed? It is okay to take vacations. It is okay to want and to get a job that is interesting and that pays well. It's okay to get tired and overwhelmed. It's okay to get scared and ask the people you love to help you keep your courage up. But if you care about holding on to this fragile, imperfect thing we call democracy, you need to stand up and be counted, because this is your world. You didn't ask for it. You're not the ones who messed it up, but you have to live in it, and your children and their children will have to live in it too. So take vacations, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, but be imaginative, learn to organize, and be brave, and vote, because we're stuck in this place together. Let me close with one of my favorite contemporary poems, one that some of you may have already seen or read at some point, by Maggie Smith. The poem is called Good Bones. Life is short, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep from my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible. And for every kind stranger, there is one who would break you, though I keep this from my children. I'm trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor, walking you through a real shithole, chirps on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful. And I mean that. In some ways, this is a heartbreaking poem, but I also find it profoundly hopeful. The world is half terrible. Sometimes it seems like it's more than half terrible. But you, class of 2024, you could make this place beautiful. Thank you, and 1,000 good wishes to you all.
Shabbat Shalom. It is a profound honor and privilege to address you on this significant occasion, a weekend that marks the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, and perseverance. As Jewish chaplains, Michael and Jen, we want to extend our heartfelt congratulations and blessings to each one of you as we come together to celebrate your remarkable achievements. Today, you stand at a threshold, poised to step into the future with hope and anticipation. In this moment, let us draw from the deep well of wisdom offered by our Jewish tradition, particularly from Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors, which provides timeless guidance for navigating life's journey. Hillel the Elder's timeless question, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? And if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Challenges us to balance self-preservation with a deep sense of communal responsibility. In a world that often grapples with division and prejudice, including the worrisome rise of anti-Semitism, your role as change makers and advocates for justice is more crucial than ever. Hillel prompts us to consider our roles not only as individuals pursuing our own aspirations, but also as members of a global village. In a world that emphasizes individual success, Hillel's words call us to cultivate empathy and a sense of shared humanity. As you graduate from Hamilton, may you carry with you the profound significance of Hillel's thoughts. May you find the courage to pursue your dreams and ambitions while also recognizing the interconnectedness of all people. And may you seize the opportunities before you with a sense of urgency, knowing that the time to make a positive impact on the world is now. As Rachel and Katie referenced earlier, Pirkei Avot also teaches through the insight of Rabbi Shimon, who said, the world stands on three things: on Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim, on learning, service, and acts of loving kindness. As you all move forward, let these pillars guide you. They serve as a timeless roadmap for living a purposeful and meaningful life. It calls us to engage in lifelong learning and to seek truth and understanding in all aspects of our activities. Service reminds us of the importance of contributing to the betterment of the world in our own backyard and beyond. Acts of loving kindness have the power to heal, to bridge divides, and to foster connection. These principles will not only sustain you, but will also help to create a more just world. Soon to be graduates, as you embark on this new journey, carry these teachings with you. Let them be your compass in times of uncertainty, your inspiration in moments of doubt, and your call to action in the face of adversity. As we celebrate this momentous occasion, we offer thanks to God, who has blessed us with the gift of education and the opportunity to pursue our dreams. We offer thanks to our families who have sacrificed so much to ensure our success. And we offer thanks to each other for the friendships and memories that we have shared.
Every Friday evening at the Center for Jewish Life, when we gather with students at Ezel Bacchus for Shabbat dinner, we extend the priestly benediction to our own children, Jonah, Maya, and Ezra, along with all the assembled Hamilton students. These passages are also recited on holidays and at life cycle events, and we want to convey the same blessing to everyone who's gathered here today. May these words resonate within your hearts, guiding you with strength, filling your days with radiance, and bestowing upon you the tranquility that comes from knowing you are cherished and blessed. Yasimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. May you be blessed by God as were Ephraim and Menashe, who loved and honored their elders and teachers, and who cherished one another without pettiness or envy, accepting in humility the blessings that were theirs. Yasamech Elohim Kesara, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May God bless you with the strength and vision of Sarah, with the wisdom and foresight of Rebecca, with the courage and compassion of Rachel, with the gentleness and graciousness of Leah. Yavarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and protect you. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. May God bestow favor upon you and grant you peace. As we shortly conclude our remarks, we are reminded of the Shehechianu blessing that has been part of Jewish life for nearly 2,000 years, and focuses attention on the present moment in time and expresses recognition of a unique milestone. Beginning in the Talmud, the central text of Rabbinic Judaism, it is the way in which we greet a new challenge and exciting happenings. The Shehechianu blessing gives thanks to God for enabling us to experience a new or special occasion. Therefore, let us say on this afternoon the Shehechianu blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. May you be a blessing to yourselves and to others, and may you continue to thrive and succeed in all your endeavors. Bizrat Hashem, with God's help, you will continue to make your families, communities, and the world proud. Mazel tov and congratulations to the class of 2024.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Naughton, and I'm one of the chaplaincy social justice interns. Before we conclude our service, I would like to thank you all again for being here, and I'd also like to bring us back to why this gathering is so important. As a religious studies student, I believe that graduation is an inherently spiritual moment in time. I believe that this is true regardless of whether you are Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, or even atheist. Since the dawn of civilization, human beings have created rites of passage, marking the transition into adulthood. The ones that immediately come to mind are perhaps bar and bat mitzvahs or confirmation ceremonies, but there are countless other lesser-known examples from around the world. When I was abroad in Galway last year, I had a professor of Irish mythology and folklore who often discussed how transitions are times of celebration and reflection for most spiritual traditions throughout history, be it transitions from one season to another, one calendar year to another, or one chapter of life to another. I think there's something to be said about the fact that human beings from all time periods and all corners of the planet find sacredness in the passage into adulthood. The way we graduates feel tomorrow when we walk across the stage, and the way most of our parents will weep, these things don't differ depending on religious affiliation or lack thereof. It may be cliche to say, but it's true. Especially during times of global conflict and division, it's crucial to reflect on the things that we have in common. Coming together as an interfaith community has been one of the most formative experiences for me during my time at Hamilton. I still remember my first time coming to a spiritual leadership council meeting on the 3rd floor of the chapel. I've truly never entered a space that was so immediately warm, welcoming, and kind. For the next few years, being in dialogue with religious and spiritual leaders on campus from all religious backgrounds and walks of life taught me more than I ever could have imagined. The other students and staff at the chapel taught me about the things they don't typically teach in classes. Most of all, about building a community that truly cares about the well-being of all its members and that isn't afraid to advocate for one another loudly. So many of the people that I have had the privilege to work with at the chapel represent all of the best qualities of Hamilton College. If to be a Hamilton graduate is to truly know thyself, then the students at the chapel have succeeded. I've had the honor of joining them as they spend their years on the Hill, interrogating who they are and their place in the world. They're insatiably curious and radically empathetic. They're authentic to their own beliefs without disrespecting the beliefs of others. They don't just have hope for a better future, for our campus, and for our world. They actively do something to make it a reality. After this weekend, many of the people in this room will have a lot more power to make positive change. Tonight and tomorrow, celebrate. We've worked so hard to earn it. But come next week, or June, or September, or whenever the realities of post-grad life hit, we'll all be faced with the creeping realization that we actually have to do something with the rest of our lives. Whether you plan on being a doctor, an artist, a historian, or if you're still figuring it out, you are walking out of here with the enormous privilege of a degree from Hamilton College, an education that so few are able to obtain. With that privilege comes the responsibility to use your knowledge for good. Working at the chapel showed me that you don't have to win the Nobel Prize or cure cancer to make a tangible impact on another person's life. I watched the chapel make positive change incrementally with every Menard dinner that brought students, staff, and faculty together to ask the important questions in life and to really listen to each other's answers. It is my hope that our class carries on the spirit of the chapel as alumni, and that we continue the work of building genuine community for many more years to come. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2024.
So you got one more night, and then tomorrow, you cross the stage and begin life. And so we hope that today has been a blessing to you. And we now invite you to offer words of encouragement to each other all day and all night tonight. When you see a neighbor, a friend, a classmate, say, I wish you the best. It's been good to know you. I want your life to be well. And that's all a benediction is. It's just a blessing. It's my honor to present this blessing to you, and I ask you present it to others. Go now in peace. Do great work. Make a difference. Donate to Hamilton. And know that you walk on the shoulders of those that are going before you. And as they have done, you too will do also. So look somebody in the face and say, bless you. And in the tradition that is mine, I say ashe and amen.